Well, that happened.
Space Jam: A New Legacy is a long-awaited sequel and one of the most anticipated movies of all time. A rogue artificial intelligence kidnaps the son of famed basketball player LeBron James, who then has to work with Bugs Bunny to win a basketball game. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I was pretty excited for this film. I enjoy the original Space Jam a lot. It's nostalgic, it's guilty pleasure. It's not a perfect movie. It's honestly not that great of a movie, but I still enjoy that film. And obviously from the jersey, and here, I'm a huge Cavs. I'm a huge LeBron fan. So I heard he was going to be in the new Space Jam. And then the crew they got behind making this film, I was instantly on board. And yes, as I just said, big Cavs fan, big LeBron fan. I'm also a kid from Akron, just like LeBron. So there's a lot of reasons why I could be completely biased in this review. But I'm not. You come here for my honest opinion. So I'm going to put that all to the side and review this film as a film. With that all being said, Space Jam: A New Legacy is the greatest film ever made in the history of cinema, driven by an Oscar-worthy performance by LeBron James, and of course, it gets 10 Davy Daves.
It's over! It's over!
I couldn't help myself. It was just too easy. But honestly, I will put all those biases aside and review this as a film and give you my honest opinion, because I'm seeing the reviews and the reactions of this film online throughout the week, and I find them very interesting. Because The Space Jam: A New Legacy is a film that's just hard to review because it's supposed to appeal to some specific audiences. Obviously, this is made for children. Children first. The Looney Tunes are in it. The first Space Jam is made for children as well. So it's hard to really dive deep into the meanings of this film, some of the plot points, some development of characters, things like that. It just feels weird to do that. And obviously, the biggest pull to this film is LeBron James, and he's the most polarizing athlete of all time. So there are going to be people who see this film and they're instantly going to hate it just because they hate LeBron James. And like I said, I'm not being biased at all. I love LeBron James, so this film had more of appeal to me than other people. But looking online and seeing some of the reactions of this film, I was expecting this to be the worst thing ever made. Basically a nightmare experience for 2 hours. And I'll be honest with you guys, I had fun with Space Jam 2. Yes, it's not a perfect film, just like the original. There's a lot of issues with the original. People like to act like the original is this masterpiece, but it's not. This film is like that. There's a lot of issues, but the point of this film isn't to analyze these issues. The point of this film isn't to really break down the meanings of things that happen in this film. The point of this film is to have fun with it. And that's exactly what happened with me watching Space Jam 2. I had fun with it. Obviously, I had more fun with it than other people because I'm a Cavs fan, I love LeBron, and I'm from Akron, because there's a lot of references to Akron. There's a lot of references to LeBron when he was in Cleveland, specifically to the 3-1 comeback. There's references of him leaving Cleveland twice. Like, I found that all fun and enjoyable. And let's talk about LeBron now. I thought LeBron was a fun presence on screen. I'm not saying it's a performance you write home about by any means. It's not like it's fucking fantastic, but I thought he was a lot of fun, and it looked like he was having a lot of fun too. I got to give LeBron and Michael Jordan credit because what they did for both these films is extremely hard to do. You have to interact with things that actually aren't in front of you, and that's extremely hard even for normal actors. To have athletes come and do that, I find that actually pretty impressive. I also like Don Cheadle's performance as the villain. I don't know, I thought he was funny, a lot of energy, just all over the place, wild. It was perfect for this type of movie. And I do appreciate that the sequel is trying to do something somewhat different than the original. Yes, eventually they're going to all play basketball against another form of the Monstars by the end of this movie. They got to win a basketball game to 3 people. Same thing that happens in the first Space Jam. But here, LeBron seeks the Tunes for help to get his son back, where the original Space Jam, the Tunes seek Michael Jordan to get the Tunes free. So it's a little bit different in that sense. And there's some father and son elements in here that work for the most part throughout the film that is touching at some points. And leading up to the basketball game, there's some fun and unique things that they did with their Warner Brothers property. I'm not going to get into it because that'd be spoilers, but online that's what everyone's talking about, how this movie's just a big Warner Brothers wet dream, just the executives like jerking off to each other about how much cool IP they have. And Yeah, there are parts where it's a little bit too crazy. Like, all right, we fucking get it. Warner Brothers has all this cool shit. HBO has all this cool shit. We get it. You don't have to beat it over our heads. We get it. But there are times throughout the film where I just had a big smile on my face. Like, that's funny. That's creative. And like I said before, a little bit different than the original Space Jam. Because this plot that you have with the basketball playing against the Monstars and doing all that, there's only so much you can do. So I do appreciate them trying to do something a little bit different. And the last compliment I want to give are the visual effects in this film. I think they look great. They're colorful. They really blend well together with the actual actors on screen and then everything they're doing, everything they're interacting with. I just thought it looked really good. And I was very surprised by that. Compared to like the original Space Jam, not saying the effects there look bad. There are parts though that looks pretty bad, but here there was never a moment where I'm like, that looks fucking terrible. Like, what's going on there? I'll talk about my issues now, but like I said before, I really don't want to because this is a film you're not really supposed to break down too much or think about too deeply. But I have some issues. And first, I would say this film is less focused than the original one. I feel like the original one had a more straightforward plot. They gotta do this thing to do the thing. Pretty simple. Here it's like that, but there are parts where it feels like the plot's kind of all over the place and it's less focused. And sometimes you can get lost with some of the other plot elements. Not lost as in confused, but like you just sort of don't really care about some of the other things that's going on that they throw in the film. That I won't say because it'd be spoilers, but I feel like if they got rid of some of the other subplots, that this film would focus up a little bit more and it'd be shorter. That's another issue I have with this film. This film is almost 2 hours long. Isn't that crazy? How do you make a Space Jam movie almost 2 hours long? It's like an hour and 55 minutes. I think the first one was under an hour and a half. I think if you get rid of some of those subplots, you can shorten the movie time and then overall make the experience a little bit better. I have some nitpicks with some of the technical parts of the film, like some editing choices and some shots. Some jokes didn't really land. There are some lines of dialogue where I'm like, oh, that's just not very good. And then, like, the delivery's not great, and that's not really the actor's fault. It's just, like, the writing's just, And the ending, it's a fine ending, and its ending you obviously would see coming. But there are parts of it where I'm like, that's kind of dumb. And also, some of it felt a little underwhelming. And then also, there's a part where I'm like, did a character just fucking die? This is a Space Jam movie. Did a character just fucking die in front of us? And then that character's not actually dead, but it just felt so out of place. I'm like, why is this in a Space Jam movie? Space Jam: A New Legacy is a sequel we didn't really need, but you can find some enjoyment out of it. Obviously, this film isn't a masterpiece or anything like that, and there are a lot of issues I have with it, but the point of this film really isn't to be reviewed. The point of this film is to have fun. It's made for children. It's made for people who are fans of LeBron and basketball, and you can find enjoyment in that. I thought LeBron gave a pretty good performance. You could tell he's having a lot of fun on screen. I thought Don Cheadle was really great in this film as well. Some of the Warner Brothers IP sprinkled throughout the film can be fun for the most part, but sometimes it can get exhausting and just beats you over the head. And the best way I can break down if you'll find enjoyment in Space Jam 2 or not is this. If you are a child, or a fan of LeBron, or a fan of basketball, you'll probably find some enjoyment in Space Jam 2. If you're not a child or not a fan of LeBron and you don't like basketball, you will probably hate this film. And me being someone from Akron, a Cavs fan and a huge LeBron fan, this film isn't perfect, just like the original Space Jam, but I found myself having fun throughout the whole film. I'll give Space Jam: A New Legacy 6 Davy Daves. I don't think this film is a disaster by any means. I think people are just being haters and trying to act like the first Space Jam is this fucking masterpiece when it's not. It's fun. It's a fun film. I get if you're exhausted by all the Warner Brothers IP. That was a little crazy. But I just don't really understand why people are hating on this film so much. Actually, I do. It's probably just because LeBron's in it. But I would just ignore that noise, go into this film just knowing what it is. It's just a Space Jam sequel with LeBron James. You're not supposed to think about it too much. You're supposed to sit back, relax, and have fun. And honestly, it's just cool to see someone from Akron starring in a huge Hollywood film like this. Like LeBron James, like that's really fucking cool. I had a big smile on my face anytime he's on screen. It's just cool to see someone where I grew up at just making it big like this. I know it's LeBron James. He's already made it big, but it's just weirder to see just him on like a big screen, big movie with other actors, like with Don Cheadle, and he's with the Looney Tunes. It was just kind of surreal to see. And there's sometimes they mention Akron throughout the film. I don't know. It gave me a big smile, and I'm happy that all this has happened. So, Space Jam: A New Legacy. Let me know what you guys thought if you've seen it and what it compares to the original film. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.